In the name of God, most compassionate, most merciful, Your Excellency, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the Assembly, peace be upon you. It honors me to be with you here today in this August Assembly to address you as elected representatives of the nations of Europe and the living conscience of their friendly people, embodying the values of freedom, justice, and human dignity. I have come to you from Palestine, the land of peace, where the three monotheistic religions have always coexisted. I have come to you bearing a message of peace and love from a people whose roots go deep in the land over thousands of years, and a land that it upholds as a homeland and continues in spite of all the pain and suffering, its epic journey towards its noble goal of freedom and independence. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks ago, as President of the State of Palestine and as chairman of the Executive Committee of the Palestine Liberation Organization, the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, I presented a request to the Secretary General of the United Nations to accept the accession of the State of Palestine as a full member of the international organization. And I explained in my speech before the General Assembly the reasons that made me take such a step. 2 decades have gone by since the Madrid Peace Conference, and 18 years have gone by since the signing of the Oslo Agreements in Washington, according to which we should have arrived at a period not beyond the 5th of May 1999. We should have reached agreement over a final peace that would establish an independent Palestinian state that would live side by side with the State of Israel in peace and security. Since that date, and our people are waiting patiently. They are waiting for the implementation of that entitlement, however, without any results. And how long can this go on? Despite that, we have left no opportunity, but we tried to reach a solution through negotiations. We accepted without any reservations the roadmap, though we have many observations over this roadmap. However, we came up against the evasiveness of the Israeli government from negotiations on its basis. We then accepted the invitation of the former U.S. President, George W. Bush, to the Annapolis negotiations. Those negotiations did achieve some progress due to the recognition of the former Israeli government headed by Mr. Ehud Olmert, their acceptance to refer to the 1967 borders and the principle of swapping territory with equal value and equal size. However, the change of the Israeli government soon led to the halt, once again, of the negotiation process. When the U.S. President Barack Obama was elected, we once again demonstrated unlimited cooperation with his administration, and we agreed to all the proposals made for the resumption of negotiations, and the last of which was the direct round of negotiations that was launched in Washington in September of 2010 on the premise of arriving at a peace agreement within a period not exceeding 1 year. We entered those negotiations with open hearts and with honest intents. However, we came up against the evasiveness of the Israeli government from any serious negotiations over final status issues, for they took advantage of the launching of elections to intensify in an unprecedented manner their settlement activities in Jerusalem and the rest of the occupied West Bank. This government refused to resume negotiations from where they had reached with the former government of Prime Minister Olmert, and they insisted on returning to point zero. They refused to apply the terms of reference for the negotiations based on the decisions of international legitimacy. And when their representatives sat down at the negotiations table, they refused to discuss any issues related to borders or any of the final status issues. As for security, and this is the sensitive issue to Israel, we are all aware of this. We had an understanding with the Israeli government and with the former Israeli government and former U.S. administration, as well as certain Arab parties, Egypt and Jordan, on effective arrangements to safeguard security for the Palestinians and the Israelis through a third party, an agreed third party, the NATO. But Mr. Netanyahu turned down all that and insisted on a security concept that is unacceptable based on expansion and colonization by annexing Jerusalem and the settlement blocks and the lands west of the racist separation wall, in addition to the Jordan Valley, which means over 40% of the territories of the occupied West Bank, as well as insisting on maintaining military bases in the depth of the West Bank territories. And we wonder here, if these demands are accepted, then where will the Palestinian state be? Peace and settlement are two contradictory issues. They are incompatible. The building of settlements in occupied territories and housing settlers there by the occupying forces is a flagrant violation of international law and international humanitarian law and a clear breach of the Geneva Conventions, as well as a breach of the agreement signed between the Palestine Liberation Organization and Israel. The fact that we affirm the necessity of halting the settlements as a necessary requisite for the resumption of the peace process is not a precondition. It is a commitment imposed by the roadmap, and the peace process cannot move ahead if it only depends on Palestinians respecting their commitments, whereas Israel turns its back to all its commitments. Settlement activity has expanded to the point of constituting a major danger that would undermine the foundations of the two-state solution. For since the signing of the Oslo agreements, the number of settlers has gone up 300%. And daily we have declarations of new plans or tenders to build thousands of new settlement units. What complicates matters further is that the government of Israel insists on unattainable preconditions, new unattainable preconditions that have no references in the frame of reference for the peace process or the decisions of international legitimacy. Though we have recognized the state of Israel, yet requiring us to recognize it as a Jewish state is a precondition that cannot be acceptable because it threatens to transform the conflict into a destructive religious conflict and jeopardizes the future of more than 1 million Palestinian citizens of the State of Israel, and wipes out a priori the rights of the Palestinian refugees, and it gives cover for greater expansionist conflicts that would jeopardize completely the opportunity for a two-state solution. We, in our commitment to international legitimacy, have recognized the State of Israel according to formula that have been negotiated, and these were written in the text of an exchange of letters encounters between the two late leaders, Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin, in the year 1993. And this issue for us was a closed one. And any attempt to reopen it is an attempt to create new pretexts to place impediments in the path of the peace process. And on the other hand, we have the right to raise the question, why does Israel refuse to recognize our state, the state of Palestine, if it is serious in accepting the two-state solution? We have affirmed our acceptance of international legitimacy when the Palestinian National Council in the year 1988 decided to adopt the Palestinian peace program that is based on the two-state solution. The independent state of Palestine, with its capital East Jerusalem, on the lands, Palestinian lands occupied by Israel in 1967, i.e., namely over 22% of the historical land of Palestine, a state that would live side by side in peace and security with the state of Israel. That step was a painful and difficult step, but it aimed to achieve the historical settlement that would allow to build peace between the two peoples. This program continued to constitute the foundation on which the Arab Peace Initiative was based. This was the initiative adopted by the League of Arab States and all member states of the Islamic Cooperation Organization. We're speaking of 57 Arab and Islamic states, and this initiative expresses the readiness of all these states to establish normal relations with Israel within the framework of a comprehensive and lasting peace that would secure the withdrawal of Israel from all occupied Palestinian and Arab territories to the borders of the 4th of June 1967 and the establishment of the State of Palestine, an independent sovereign state with its capital East Jerusalem, as well as establishing a fair and agreed solution to the question of refugees in accordance with UN Resolution 194, and to provide security and peace to all the states of the region. We have called and continue to call on the Israelis to take this opportunity that provides for them a security to live in peace with the peoples of the region, and in which lies the real security for them and for their children, as well as for us and for our children. For peace is what makes security. It is not might, military might or hegemony or geographic expansion that builds security, and you cannot maintain peace by force, but only through understanding. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, in East Jerusalem, the Palestinian population face a systematic policy of ethnic cleansing that includes the destruction of their homes, the expulsion of the population, and the withdrawal of their identification papers, including persecution of their elected representatives, with the aim of expelling them from their city and to restrict all accessibility to the holy sites, in addition to ongoing excavations that threaten the foundations of these holy sites. In addition, the city is suffocated and isolated from its Palestinian environment through the belt of settlements and walls. The forces of occupation continue their incursions into the areas of the Palestinian National Authority. Through raids and arrests, they have given free rein to their armed settler militias that enjoy the special protection of the occupation army to carry out their attacks against the defenseless Palestinian population, targeting their homes, schools, mosques, fields, crops, and trees. The strict blockade continues against the Gaza Strip, which is a form of collective punishment imposed on the innocent population, in addition to the different attacks through air raids, artillery shelling, and assassinations, to complete the aims of the aggressive war against the Gaza Strip that started 3 years ago and brought about huge destruction in lives and property. The occupation authorities hold in their prisons over 6,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 21 representatives of the different parliamentary groups who have declared only a few days ago a hunger strike in protest against the difficult and humiliating conditions they live under. We want to see them free among the members of their families, just as the family of Gilad Shalit would like to see their son free and back in the hold of his family. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, in spite of all the Israeli obstacles, the Palestinian National Authority has worked throughout the last years to implement intensive programs that aims to spread and disseminate the culture of peace and justice and democracy, and to upgrade the preparedness of Palestinian institutions to meet the entitlement of independence. And in accordance with the report prepared by the ad hoc liaison committee of the donor countries and based on the evaluations of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and the UN mission and the EU mission, this program has achieved full success in upgrading the performance of Palestinian institutions to a higher level than necessary even for running a state successfully. The report affirms that Palestine has made achievements in this area even more than many states have achieved, states that already enjoy full membership of the United Nations, while we stand deprived of this right. Based on these achievements and in light of the increased suffering of our people under occupation and in light of the stalemate in the prospects of the negotiations, we found no other way but to address the international community, to call the international community to take a role to open new prospects before the peace process by recognizing the state of Palestine along the borders of the 4th of June 1967 and to accept the state of Palestine as a full member of the United Nations. We confirm that with this request, we do not aim to isolate Israel or to delegitimize Israel. What we want is to gain legitimacy for our existence as a people that has the right to self-determination, similar to any other peoples in the world. Our aim is to delegitimize occupation and settlement and apartheid policies. And we underline that our step is not an alternative to negotiations, not at all. It is a positive factor to prepare practical groundwork for a serious negotiation process that would be capable to bring forth positive fruits. And here we stand to underline our readiness to return to the table of negotiations according to a clear frame of reference that is in compliance with international legitimacy and on the basis of a full halt of all settlement activities. Hence, our positive position from the recent declaration made by the quartet that redefined or reaffirmed, the frame of reference of the peace process, particularly the two-state principle along the borders of 1967, and reaffirmed the commitments of both parties in accordance with the road map, and in particular to hold settlement activities. Israel's compliance for these positions will open the way before the resumption of the peace process. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have 128 member states in the United Nations that recognize the state of Palestine along the borders of the 4th of June 1967. We are proud to say that among these are 17 member states of the Council of Europe. And Palestine has advanced diplomatic relations with another 24 states that are also members of the Council of Europe. A number of these countries have affirmed, and especially those states that are members of the European Union, They have affirmed that they are ready to recognize the state of Palestine when the time is appropriate. We say to you, that is all and well. Now, in all honesty, we tell you, this is the suitable time, this is the appropriate time, and we appreciate the decision taken by the European Parliament in this regard recently, and we call for its implementation. We also highly appreciate, and with all pride, the decision taken by your August Assembly last Tuesday to invite the 6 members of the Council of Europe that are members at the UN Security Council to support the application of the State of Palestine to join the United Nations as a full member. Europe has invested huge amounts of effort and money in supporting the building of the institutions of the Palestinian state. They have given to our people major forms of support that will always be remembered with gratitude by our people. The recognition of the State of Palestine and support for its bid to membership at the United Nations is a protection of those achievements that have been made so far due to the European efforts and to the European investment, among other efforts. And it is also to consolidate the position of Europe and its leading role in driving the peace process forward. Mr. President, today we live the Arab Spring, and we witness the courage of the Arab peoples as they express their will to attain freedom and democracy and social justice. We, the Palestinians, were always at the heart of the movement of the Arab peoples that aspired to freedom. We always upheld the traditions of democracy and respect for pluralism and the freedom of opinion and expression. And this was always a source of pride for us and a source of inspiration for our brothers from all Arab countries. And today we stand at the heart of the Arab Spring, and we announce that the hour of the Palestinian Spring is here. And if the essence of the Arab Spring is the will of the peoples to gain their freedom, then the essence of the Palestinian Spring is to get rid of the occupation and to attain freedom and independence and achieve peace and security and stability in all the region. The beginnings of our spring was shown to the whole world when hundreds of thousands went into the streets of the cities and villages of Palestine, and the diaspora expressing in one voice their will to have Palestine as state number 194 in the United Nations. This movement has maintained its peaceful and civilized nature, though there were many attempts at provocation from the Israeli side. And we affirm our determination to maintain the peaceful nature of our movement, because we refuse violence and we refuse terrorism in all its forms, including state terrorism and the terrorism of armed settlers. We will disappoint them. We will not let them drive us to extremism. We will not go that way. Our people will continue their peaceful popular resistance against the occupation and settlement and the racist separation wall, thus offering a model of inspiration demonstrating the power of an armless people facing bullets and tractors of destruction. The world has celebrated the Arab Spring, and now this celebration has to stand the test of credibility. Will this celebration stop at the borders of Palestine, or will it be able to go beyond the double standards and open its arms to welcome from the Palestinian Spring as well. Will Israel be allowed to continue to be a country above all laws and above all accountability? Will it be allowed to continue to reject the resolutions of the UN Security Council and UN General Assembly and the International Criminal Court and the violations of international law? Our people await to hear the response. Some of this response is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen, elected representatives of the peoples of Europe, and our people calls on you to take up your responsibility. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, within this ongoing struggle for independence, we shall continue to make every effort possible to develop the building of our society and entrenching our democratic institutions and organizing our domestic situation. As for the achievements made at this level, we shall seek to safeguard them and to build on them. We are particularly proud of the fact that in recent years we have been able to eradicate illiteracy almost completely in Palestine. Our people who contributed to building numerous countries in the world, a people that holds holy, that venerates education and culture and creativity, and we have agreed major steps in expanding our educational infrastructure at all levels, reaching the point where we now have 49 universities and institutes catering for 5% of the total population. And we shall continue with this work so as to provide education opportunities for all our sons and daughters. And thanks to the appreciated support we have received from the Arab and friendly countries, and in particularly the countries of Europe, we have achieved a number of infrastructure projects with particular attention to developing health services and upgrading rural and marginalized areas. And we have worked and will continue to work to strengthen the judiciary and the rule of law and to maintain the security of the citizen and his dignity. We have also made great strides in the field of women's participation in public life and in decision-making bodies, whether executive, legislative, or judicial, as well as in local government institutions. And along this line, we have signed the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the CEDAW. This was a long time ago. In our aspiration to achieve equality between men and women, we have also developed a system for monitoring, accountability, and administration and financial reform with the aim of establishing transparency, integrity, and good governance in our strive to comply with the highest international standards in this area. We have, in building our national authority and in laying the foundations of our future state, we have chosen the parliamentary democratic system based on respect for pluralism and equality among all citizens, men and women. And we have opted for the rule of law and for safeguarding freedoms and human rights. And in spite of all the difficulties and foreign interventions and limitations set upon us by the occupation, we have been determined to continue our adherence to the choice of democracy and to safeguard the freedom of organization and association and political and syndical work, and to support the institutions of civil society and to protect freedom of opinion and expression and freedom of the press and association and all public and private freedoms. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our success in the signing of the National Provisional Reconciliation Agreement in Cairo on the 4th of May constituted a major step towards ending the schism that ruptured our national unity and brought upon us and our cause major injuries. The core of this agreement is to set up a provisional government composed of independent national personalities that would prepare the ground for elections, presidential, parliamentarian, and local government elections at a time not beyond May 2012. This agreement is a positive achievement that would contribute to the peace process, and it is as well a necessity to safeguard Palestinian democracy. Mr. President, what brings us together, we the Palestinians and Europe, goes beyond geographic neighborhood relations along the Mediterranean, and it is more than mere commercial exchange and human interaction relations and the product of the interaction between civilizations that goes back thousands of years. What brings us together more is, over and above all that I mentioned before, is the values, the joint values that are adhered to by our peoples, the values of freedom, brotherhood, and equality, and justice among all human beings. These values were born by the peoples of Europe since centuries, and these are the same values for which the peoples of the Arab world and at their forefront the Palestinian people are aspiring to achieve. We look with all admiration to what was achieved in Europe at the level of entrenching the basis of pluralistic democracy and the rule of law and respect for human rights. And we look upon you and hope to benefit from your experience in order to develop our nascent democracy that we pride ourselves in. We also look with all admiration to this historic city, Strasbourg, that was under dispute among the states of Europe in the past, but today it is the seat of unified European institutions and the main support for peace. And in this context, I cannot but express my pride at the partnership agreement that was signed yesterday with you by my brother, Mr. Salim Zanoun, according to which the Palestine National Council, the parliament of the Palestinian people in the homeland and the diaspora, was given the status of partner for democracy at your parliamentary assembly. And we are particularly proud to come as Palestine, following Morocco, among the first Arab countries that enjoy this status. This will have a positive impact on consolidating the relations of friendship and cooperation between our peoples and in encouraging the process of democratic change in our Arab region. I would like to express to you the gratitude of the Palestinian people for the generous support received from the countries of Europe to assist it to build its economy and its institutions. We hope that, I repeat, we hope that this role will be strengthened and strengthen further the political role of Europe in the peace process in the region. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Resolution 181 of the United Nations announced the establishment of two states. One state was established, and that is Israel, and another state has not seen the light of day, and that is Palestine. And we have come to ask for the state to see the light of day. And this is our legitimate right guaranteed by international law. This is not an alternative to negotiations, for negotiations are indispensable to arrive at solutions over borders and security and refugees and water and settlements and Jerusalem and the release of all prisoners. in addition to putting an end to the conflict, in accordance to the stipulations of the Arab Peace Initiative, so that Israel may live in an environment of peace that would include all Arabs and all Muslims. We want to live as other peoples live, in freedom and in dignity. We do not aim to isolate anyone. We want to protect both peoples, the Palestinian and Israeli peoples, from occupation and from settlement that destroys the future of both peoples. And Israeli politicians have to choose between settlement and peace. We, on our part, have chosen peace. You have supported the Arab Spring that calls for democracy and freedom. And here comes the Palestinian Spring to also demand freedom and an end to occupation. We deserve your support. We deserve your support. We trust you, and we are sure that you will not abandon us and you will not let us down. We count on you. Peace be upon you.